peeps? Mr.Bones back at you, and it's week 3 of Huluwicked. And here's what I watched this week.
2021
Willy's Wonderland. Directed by Kevin Lewis, writer G.O. Parsons, starring Nicolas Cage and Emily Tosta as Liv. And you got Beth Grant as Sheriff Lund, this goofy old sheriff lady. Liv is like the other main character actor besides Nick Cage that's all throughout the movie and her group of friends. A quiet drifter is tricked into a janitorial job at the now condemned Willy's Wonderland. The mundane tasks suddenly become an all-out fight for survival against wave after wave of demonic animatronics. Fists fly, kicks land, titans clash, and only one side will make it out alive. Okay, the backstory is this place, Willy's Wonderland. Serial killers work there. Crazy ass fucking serial killers, and they take people back to the Happy Fun Room, which is where you usually have private parties and shit at places like this, and kill people. And they're Satanists as well. And when people find out about what they're doing, the cops come after them. Instead of giving themselves up, they decide to kill themselves in some satanic ritual, which puts their souls in all the demonic puppets. Well, they weren't demonic then, but yeah. And pretty much the same as Child's Play, how Charles Lee Ray puts himself in a Chucky doll. And so with the place closed down, they can't feed. So they start leaving the place and going and killing the locals. So in the backstory, the sheriff begs them to leave their people alone, leave their townspeople alone, and we will feed you. So when random visitors come through town, they take them there. They say, we have somewhere you can stay overnight. You just clean the place up a little bit as you're there and whatnot, and then the puppets eat them, kill them, until one day you get Nick Cage. He comes through. They have these spiked strips, and he runs over them. That's how they lure people in there. And his tires on his muscle car get flattened, and he don't have any money on him because all he has is a card. And they're like, "Oh, we don't have working ATM machines, whatever." But I got a way you can work it off. And there you go. Come stay at Willy's Wonderland, clean the place up, and the funny part about it has funny shit in this is the guy that says, "You're now on staff at Willy's Wonderland, gives him a job, and by the way, don't forget to take breaks. Breaks are important." And also, Nick Cage, he's got a big fascination with purple pop, grape pop, punch, whatever. It has like 3 different names on it. It says punch and pop and grape. But he had them with him in a bag, and so he'll be sitting here and all out fighting these things 1 minute, and he'll look at his watch and be like, "Oh, time for a break," and doesn't actually talk, but you know. And it's funny, and he'll go back and play some pinball and drink his purple pop, and see it's time to go off his break, go back and continue to fight him. There's one scene toward the end where he's helping Liv, and he's getting ready to go at it, and then he sees, oh, it's time for a break. By the end of the movie, the sheriff and the mechanic expect him to be dead. By the morning, they show up there, and they think they own his muscle car and shit, and they go open the door, and Nick's standing there smiling at him, reaches for the keys to his car, and gets in it and leaves. This movie was a shit ton of fun, fucking awesome. Nicolas Cage doesn't say a damn word in it, but you know, he's a good actor, good facial expressions and shit, cool character. And as you know, he's fighting animatronics, like kind of like a horror movie at Chuck E. Cheese. And in special features, he describes it as like Clint Eastwood's Pale Rider meets Killer Clowns from Outer Space, which was a pretty good comparison. A lot of fun. If you enjoy crazy ass movies like Killer Clowns and such, I'd highly recommend you check it out. Very good movie.
2022's
Fresh. Directed by Mimi Cave. Written by Lauren Kahn. Stars Daisy Edgar Jones as Noah. And Sebastian Stan as Steve. Sebastian Stan plays Tommy Lee in the new Pam and Tommy TV series. The horrors of modern dating seen through one young woman's defiant battle to survive her new boyfriend's unusual appetite. It's about Noah. It starts off like a normal movie, kind of come off as like a romantic comedy or whatever. It's this girl and she's scrolling through apps and she's went on a few dates through apps, and she's tired of it. She shows her on one date with this asshole who's like just randomly starts going on about how it seems like women these days don't care about what they look like, and back in the olden days women wore dresses, and how he thinks she would look good in a dress because she has a big poofy sweater. And then they're outside, their date's over, and he's like, well, this was fun. You're really pretty. And she said, I don't think we're a match. So then he says, I was just trying to be nice, you stuck up bitch. And then leaves. Then it goes on to the next scene, and she meets Steve at the grocery store. And it's kind of like like I said, like a romantic comedy or something. Instead of an app, she actually met someone in real life. She was telling her friend, she said, I didn't know people did that anymore. He shows up all smooth and talking to her about grapes. Like, telling my niece about these grapes that taste like cotton candy. She doesn't believe me. I can tell you don't believe me either. You want to try one? And so she tried one, and it sounds weird, but she agreed that they tasted like that. I haven't never heard of these grapes. But then she gives him her number, and he goes for a while just to bait her in. He goes for a while not PMing her or anything, and she was wondering if he was ever going to. He finally does. They get out on another date, or a date. They go out on a date. Then they date for a little bit, and next thing you know, let's go on a vacation. Oh, okay, where will we go? I don't know, it'll be a surprise. And he takes her somewhere, she doesn't know where the fuck she's at, gives her a drink, her vision starts getting blurry, she passes out and wakes up in his basement. She's like, what the hell's going on? Oh, I drugged you. He's just sitting there, all calm in the corner, with his hair all nice, dressed all nice, all calm. I drugged you. And explaining to her that he won't kill her as long as she don't act crazy, but he will sell her meat. That there's a whole market for it, and he kidnaps girls and takes them down to his basement. Has these like concrete cells. He keeps them in. There's like 3 girls on there. I believe one of them's name is Penny, and one of them's name is Melissa. And Noah meets Penny through the wall, talking to her and stuff. And they pan up over the wall, and you can see that Penny is missing a leg. There's this one scene where she says, can I take a shower? And he says, don't try nothing funny. They're walking down the hallway, she tries to get loose. He knocks her out, next thing you know. And this movie reminds me of a mix of American Psycho and like Hannibal, because there's cannibal shit in it. And Sebastian Stan reminds me of Patrick Bateman. So I forgot to mention when they were on their date talking about what they do, he says he was a plastic surgeon. So yeah, when she tries to get loose, he knocks her out. She wakes up in a surgical room, and she's on her chest with tears coming out of her eyes. She can't move. She says, what's going on? And there's music playing, and he's just jamming and having a good time. He's, I'm taking your ass. And he's cutting her ass muscles off. And he's like, I'm taking your ass. You lost my trust. Don't worry, I'm a doctor, remember? And he's like grooving to that music and working on her, and it's nuts. And then there's like a music montage scene of him dancing in the kitchen and doing all these goofy, fancy dance moves, and goes over to the counter and grabs a leg that he had took off one of the girls, throws it on the counter with a meat tenderizer and separating the meat. And he very much reminds me of Patrick Bateman. So there's this one scene where she's looking through these magazines. He does like, he still like for some reason is attached to her and likes her more than the other girls. And looking at these magazines he gave her, and there's this hidden message written sideways on one of the pages that says, if you're reading this, it means he likes you. Take advantage of it. So she's like obedient and does whatever he says and answers and talks to him and slowly earns his trust again. He's taking her out of the basement for little lunches in the dining room, and they talk, and she's just trying to figure him out. And I really love how she gets away toward the end. That's all I'm saying. And there's a lot more I'm not saying, so I don't spoil the movie. This has turned out to be a really good movie. Pretty damn awesome. I'd recommend you check it out.
2010s.
Don't be afraid of the dark.
starring Katie Holmes and Guy Pearce.
And Bailey Madison playing Guy Pearce's little girl, Sally.
This starts off with a backstory of this guy who lures his maid down in the basement to try to take her teeth out to give a sacrifice to these little things that are in the old wood stove or whatever that's not actually a stove. It leads down miles down below the house. These little evil troll fairy things that like to eat on kids' bones and teeth. Then the movie starts and it's Guy Pearce moving into this house with his girlfriend Katie Holmes, and his daughter comes to live with him. And she keeps hearing these stupid little things whispering, "Sally, we want to be your friend," and all this shit. And they're trying to lure her into the basement to take her down in the hole and take her teeth and shit. And her dad does not believe her at all. And Katie Holmes' character, I believe her name's Kim, doesn't at first, until this guy, the groundskeeper or whatever, it's actually the grandson of the guy in the first beginning of the movie that got killed. His grandson. He's like just trying to look over stuff, I guess. He tries to protect the girl and he gets attacked by them things. And Katie ends up going to visit him in the hospital, and he tells her the whole story of them things. So then now Katie believes the little girl, but by the time she believes, it's a little too late. But she tries to protect the little girl, and she ends up getting pulled down in the hole. And it's kind of a suspenseful little movie. Cool little movie, the little creatures and shit.
I'd recommend you check it out.
2023's Zombie Town, written by Peter Lepentodis, written by Peter Michael Simonek and Michael Schwartz, starring Chevy Chase as Ms. Marion, Dan Aykroyd as Lynn Carver, Maddie Monroe as Amy Maxwell, and Marlon Kazadi as Mike Broadstreet. Amy and Mike unearth a centuries-old curse when they decide to watch an exclusive film reel. The duo must track down an infamous filmmaker and navigate a town of hungry zombies to save the world. So in this movie you have Mike, who works at a movie theater, and his boss got exclusive rights to play Lynn Carver's newest film, who is a famous movie director like John Carpenter or Wes Craven. And Mike's friend, would-be girlfriend, who he likes, comes running down to convince him to give her an early viewing of it, which she talks him into it. And when they start to film, it unleashes something that turns the whole town into zombies. So then it's up to Amy and Mike and Lynn Carver to stop this curse and try to turn everyone back. They come to the realization that they must destroy all of Lynn's movies. And while he is at this tomb where he hid all those old reels, Maddie and Mike head to the theater to burn the newest movie. And yeah, they defeat the zombies. Somewhere before the end, Mike tells Maddie he loves her. Happy ending. The end. These are not your traditional eat your brains zombies. They open their mouth and lights come out and they suck your soul. They're soul sucker zombies. This is based on an R.L. Stine book, and yeah, this is a fun watch if you're in the mood for a kid-friendly, family-friendly movie type deal like this. Like I said, if you're in the mood, I'd recommend checking it out. 2023's The Mill, directed by Sean King O'Grady, written by Jeffrey David Thomas, starring Lil Rel Howery as Joe. A businessman mysteriously wakes up in an open-air prison cell with only an old grist mill. Forced to work as a beast of burden, he must find a way to escape before the birth of his child. Yeah, so Joe wakes up in this mill with nothing but this big concrete wheel on a stick and a green light screen projected onto the wall with a voice on a speaker. He works for this company called The Mallard, and they inform him that he has been picked to take part in this project to improve his work ethic, and he is forced to push this big ass wheel all the way around, and the timer counts up each time you go all the way around. The first goal is like 100, and the wheel's heavy as hell, and he's like, I'm not going to be able to push that many times. But where he fails is each time he gets up there, he goes a little bit farther, So when he goes up to 300, the people are impressed and like, well, if you can do 300, you can do 400. If you can do 400, you can do 500. So each time he reaches his daily goal and he goes a little farther thinking he's impressing them and doing good, they up the ante. And he can hear people through the vents in the wall, and he talks to them, and they're getting pissed off at him and screaming, stop that, because when you show off and you do that many, we have to do that many. And each time, at the end of each day, if someone doesn't reach their goal, they die. This is another type of movie that reminds me sorta of Saw, but not as extreme or not identical. And it was a interesting idea of a movie and a good watch, and I would recommend checking it out. It's new on Hulu. 2018's Trespassers, directed by Orson Oblowitz, written by Corey Deshawn, starring Angela Trimbus as Sarah, Janelle Parrish as Estelle, Jonathan Howard as Victor, Zachary Avery as Jesse, and Fairuza Balk as Visitor. Two young couples rent a Mojave Desert luxury house for a weekend of fun and coke. The doorbell rings and the body count begins. I gotta say, the kills and stuff in this movie were fun, but the movie wasn't that likable because none of the characters were likable. You meet these two couples. You got one of them likes to make racist remarks. One of them is just a complete douchebag and picks on the other people and says, "What are you going to do about it? What are you going to do about it?" And makes them back down. And it's stupid. They're supposed to be a set of two couples who are friends, but I can't tell. Throughout the movie, as you meet them, you realize one of them is just not very intimate or caring of his girlfriend. The other one's just a complete douchebag that picks on everybody. And one of the girls had slept with the other girl's fiance. None of them are likable. Well, except for the main girl, Sarah. She doesn't do anything wrong. So you got these two couples that are here for a vacation, and then the bell rings, and you meet Fairuza Balk, who she's only credited as Visitor. She's just a neighbor in the neighborhood whose car broke down and just wants to use the phone. The one douchebag who's very high-strung keeps tripping out, "Why'd you let her in here? She's a stranger," and blah, blah, blah. He comes rushing in while she's using the phone and shoves her across the room and makes her face fall face first into some kind of crystal statue and kills her. And when this movie first comes on, you see these Mexican gangsters throwing a couple out of a car, making them get on their knees and killing them cartel style. Well, eventually they show up here and wreak havoc and start killing people, and their only reasoning is, "Why are you doing this?" Why? It's what we do, pillage and plunder. The local sheriff is involved too. He reminds me of the Sheriff Hoyt from the Texas Chainsaw remake. He's part of their crew. Like I said, the kills were cool, the violence, but none of the characters are likable, so how are you supposed to care if they get killed? Watch if it strikes your interest. 2017's Mom and Dad, directed and written by Brian Taylor, starring Nicolas Cage as Brent, Selma Blair as Kendall, Ann Winters as Carly, and Zachary Arthur as Josh. A teenage girl and her younger brother must survive a wild 24 hours during which a mass hysteria of unknown origin causes parents to turn violently on their own children. This movie comes on and you meet the couple Brent and Kendall, played by Nick Cage and Selma Blair, and their children Carly and Josh. Carly and Josh go to school, and all of a sudden all hell breaks loose and all the adults are trying to kill the children. So they all jump the fence and whatnot and head home, where they are greeted by their parents, who act like they're fucking nuts and try to kill them. The kids end up in the basement, locked inside. The parents try everything to get inside. The mother goes and gets a Zoll saw. This part cracks me up. Nick Cage's character says you're not going to be able to get in there with that. She said it's called a Zoll saw. Means it saws all. And while they're trying to get in there, it's not working so great at first. And they're trying to get in. The little boy shoots a bullet through the door and hits the mother in the arm. And she said, "Really? A handgun? When did you get one of those?" "We have children." And he said, "Well, it was in a lockbox with a code." She says, "What was the code?" "Oh, Josh's birthday." She said, "How smart." So then I think of the idea to go stick a water hose down in the basement window to gas him out. in which the girl thinks up the idea to rig some matches at the bottom of the door for when they decide to come in to blow him across the room. This is just a balls out crazy movie. I think of a few movies like The Crazies and 28 Days Later. Just a blast, but it does have a sudden cliffhanger ending, which is odd. But it was a fun watch. I'd recommend checking this out if you haven't seen it. Thanks for watching. Tune in next week to see what I watched for week 4. Peace.